There was once a time when street lamps had to be manually lit every day, and street performers entertained you with music and monkeys. Today, we explore 10 city features that were once everywhere, but have now largely disappeared from downtown. Gas street lamps were a common way to light up cities before electricity became popular. These lamps worked by burning gases like coal gas or natural gas, creating a soft, glowing light. They were first introduced in the early 1800s and became widely used in towns and cities, especially in busy streets and parks. Workers called lamplighters had the job of walking around at dusk to light each lamp by hand and then putting them out at dawn. Over time, new inventions like the gas mantle made the light even brighter. Eventually, electric street lights took over because they were easier to maintain and didn't need to be lit by hand. A gas light installed in Baltimore in 1817 was the first public gas streetlight in that city, and it helped launch the first gas utility in the country. Telephone booths were small enclosed structures designed for people to make phone calls in public. They became popular after the coin-operated payphone was invented in 1889 by William Gray. By the mid-20th century, they could be found on nearly every city block, especially in busy downtown areas. Most had glass walls and doors, a payphone inside, and sometimes even a phone book. By the 1980s, the number of booths began to shrink due to changes in design and the introduction of mobile phone use. By 1999, there were about 2 million phone booths, but only a tiny fraction remain today. The famous court case, Katz versus United States, helped establish the idea that people have a right to privacy during phone calls made from inside a booth. In the past, newspaper hawkers were a common sight on busy city streets. These young boys, often called newsies, would shout out headlines to get people's attention. They didn't work for the newspapers directly. They bought copies in bulk and kept the profit from what they sold. Many newsboys were children from poor families who needed the money to help at home. They usually worked early in the morning or late in the evening, standing on corners or walking through crowds. Sometimes the headlines they shouted weren't even in the paper. They just made them sound exciting to get more people to buy. One of the most famous strikes by newsboys happened in 1899 in New York City and helped lead to better working conditions. Penny arcades were popular places where people could play games and see machines for just a penny. They started showing up in the late 1800s and were often found on boardwalks or in busy city spots. Inside, people could try things like fortune-telling machines, mechanical music players, or peep show viewers with short films. The machines didn't give prizes like modern arcades, but they were exciting and new at the time. Over the years, penny arcades changed as technology improved and coin-operated machines became more advanced. By the mid-1900s, many penny arcades had added pinball machines and early video games. One of the oldest known coin-operated machines, called What the Butler Saw, was first made in 1895. Fire alarm call boxes were once found on many street corners in busy cities. They were used to quickly alert the fire department when a fire was spotted nearby. These boxes worked by sending out a coded signal through a telegraph system, which told firefighters the location of the emergency. Each box had a unique number that matched a specific area or intersection. People activated them by pulling a hook or turning a knob, which started a mechanical signal system. Although many cities have removed them due to the rise of cell phones and 911, some places still keep them around as a backup during power outages. In one case, a working firebox was used during a 911 outage in Boston in 2018 to report a fire. During the Cold War, many cities had public fallout shelters built to protect people from nuclear radiation after an attack. These shelters were often placed in basements of schools, government buildings, or office towers. They were stocked with food, water, medical supplies, and radiation detection equipment to last for about 2 weeks. The government encouraged citizens to prepare their own shelters at home, especially in basements, using concrete or earth as shielding. Signs with bold yellow and black designs marked official fallout shelters so people could find them quickly. These efforts were part of a civil defense campaign that began after the Cold War tensions rose in the late 1940s. Over 1 million fallout signs were produced, and some are still visible today, even though the shelters themselves are no longer in use. Horse-drawn streetcars were once a common way for people to travel around cities in the 1800s. These streetcars ran on metal rails in the streets and were pulled by horses instead of engines. They were a big improvement over regular wagons because the rails made the ride smoother and easier for the horses. Riders paid a small fare and sat inside a covered car while the horse pulled them along a fixed route. These streetcars helped cities grow by making it easier for people to live farther from where they work. Over time, horse-drawn streetcars were replaced by electric ones, which were faster and didn't need to be fed or rested. One streetcar company in New York City once used over 8,000 horses to run its routes. In the late 1800s and early 1900s, street organ players, also known as organ grinders, were common sights in big cities. These performers played mechanical instruments that produced music by turning a crank, often while a monkey collected coins from passers-by. Many organ grinders were immigrants, especially from Italy, who used their performances to make a living. The music came from pinned barrels or later from paper rolls, but the instruments were limited in what they could play. Over time, people began to see the grinders as noisy and annoying, and some believed they were linked to begging and crime. In 1935, New York City officials passed laws that banned barrel organs from streets, and many of these instruments were destroyed. Before recorded music became popular, these organs were one of the few ways people could hear their favorite tunes played again and again. Cobblestone streets used to be very common in older cities. They were made from naturally rounded stones often found in rivers or fields. Workers laid them by hand, usually in sand or mortar, to create strong, durable roads. These streets held up well in bad weather and didn't get muddy or dusty like dirt roads. Cobblestones also helped horses get better traction, which made travel safer. Over time, smoother materials like asphalt and concrete took over, making cobblestone roads rare today. Sometimes, when asphalt wears away in old neighborhoods, the original cobblestone surface can still be seen underneath. Boston, Massachusetts, and Charleston, South Carolina are renowned for their extensive and well-preserved cobblestone streets. In the early 1900s, riding an elevator was very different from today. Elevators had to be operated manually, using a lever that controlled how fast or slow the cab moved. Skilled elevator operators made sure the elevator stopped exactly at the right level, which wasn't as easy as it sounds. In big department stores, the operators didn't just drive the elevator. They would also announce each floor's products and sometimes even promote sales. When automatic push-button elevators became common in the mid-20th century, the need for operators started to fade away. However, some older buildings and a few special places, like luxury apartments and historic sites, still use operators today. In 2017, over 50 buildings in New York City were still using elevator operators to serve their residents and visitors. So, if you could bring back one old city feature, what would it be? Drop a comment down below to tell us your favorite part about city living.